What's up, everyone? Back for another beer review, and today is Wednesday, which of course means it's time for another Western New York Wednesday here on the channel. And the beer I'm reviewing today once again comes from the Big Ditch Brewing Company, and they're out of Buffalo, New York, and this is their West Coast Burner. So they're calling this one a West Coast-style IPA that comes in at 7.2% alcohol by volume, 40 IBUs at the time of review. This can is just over 2 weeks old. So this is one of Big Ditch's latest releases, and it is a West Coast take on their flagship IPA, Hayburner. Now, Hayburner is basically well entrenched here in the Western New York area, more specifically the Buffalo, New York area, as like the shelfy IPA locally that everyone enjoys and buys. It's, at most restaurants. You can find it at like corner gas stations. It's pretty popular. It's kind of like a, old school American IPA meets a hazy, but it's pretty good. Depending on the batch too, it can be amazing. But in general, it's a really good, solid IPA. So this is the West Coast version of it. And I will say this, I just absolutely love the whole theme to this. So if you are a fan of, say, 90s hip hop and rap, then you may notice what they're doing with this label, but this is a riff on the iconic Dr. Dre The Chronic album. So it even has like the parental advisory. Instead it says hoppy advisory, delicious contents. It has the Hayburner logo instead of Dr. Dre on it. And then they have a spiel here on the side. I have to read it because it pertains to the song Nothing But a G Thing. It says, ready to make an entrance, so back on up. And then it says, it's like this and like that and like this. And West Coast Burner is just as bold and citrusy as our flagship American IPA with an extra kick of grapefruit, pine, and even more bitter yet clean finish. Have one, then just chill to the next episode. Even if this isn't great, I'm just going to keep this and probably put it behind me on the wall, or pretentious wall, of bottles and cans, because I love everything about the theme and label and everything. So anyway, let's crack this one open. Hops in this one, Idaho 7, Falconer's Flight, Zeus, Cascade, and Warrior. So all of those are old school, like West Coast IPA hops, aside from the Idaho 7. But anyway, let's give it a pour here. I'm really excited about this one. I hope it's quite good. I've mentioned it so many times on the channel over the past year, but my, my palate is pining for more bitterness, and I really digging West Coast IPAs more so than in the past. And I think this is going to be a good test to see. Do I like this more than Hayburner? The same, somewhere in that realm, because I'm starting to really enjoy it. So this doesn't have like pure on clarity. It has a gentle haze to it, but I can make out my hand to some degree behind the beer. Hold it up to the light. It has this beautiful like burnt orange color. Slight carbonation in there. It has just over a finger of a bright white, fluffy looking head in the Big Ditch glass. Hashtag proper glassware. I mean, how can you go wrong? Plus it's a teak. Let's go. Anyway, nose. Yeah, that smells really, really good. So there is a ton of, to me, like pineapple, but it's not like crazy sweet pineapple. It's just like a ripened pineapple. And then underneath that, lots of citrus. There's orange, there's grapefruit. There's also like an underlying, like more like I'd say more of an apricot than a peach. But then there's this big blast of like pine sap. You can smell that this is going to have that West Coast kind of feel to it. It has an underlying like bready, biscuity kind of malt sensation, more bready than biscuity. Maybe a little bit of caramel as well. Man, it smells like it's just over 2 weeks old, because it is. It has a vibrancy to the aromatics. It's just kind of punching me in the nose with brightness. Yeah, this smells like, so, I've had a lot of like these modern West Coast IPAs, and the modern West Coast IPAs that work for me are the ones that still have the soul of an old school West Coast IPA. And what I mean by that is you still pick up on a little bit of the malt character, whether it's bready or biscuity or has some caramel going on. But then after that, you do get that like piney kind of resinous finish that has like usually a moderate to maybe even higher than moderate bitterness on the finish. And those are the best. And this smells like one of those. Not like true to the old school West Coast style, a little bit of new school influence, but they're doing it proper, least in the nose. So let's see what the taste is all about. Cheers, everybody. Oh. It's nice. It's real nice. Ooh. So where they get marks for being able to call this a West Coast, to me anyway, is that finish. It's not overbearing with the pine, but it does have a piney, earthy, kind of almost resinous bitterness on the back of the palate that's like moderate, maybe a touch over. Body on this one's pretty big. I'd say higher side of medium, lower side of full, 7.2. It packs a punch from the body. The mouthfeel, crisp, effervescent, moderate carbonation, but it's very smooth going down. So body and mouthfeel are really nice, especially the body. The taste, I'll be honest with you, the taste is not as boisterous or, dare I say, bombastic, shout out to Paul over at PA Brew News, as the nose, but it's definitely good. So all that, you know, sweet, juicy kind of grapefruit note. I shouldn't even say juicy. It just has like a sweeter, like ruby red grapefruit, sweeter orange. But right after that, I get hit with a little bit of breadiness and biscuity kind of malt, touch of caramel, dives underneath the palate, but it's with you, right? So that's where that West Coast influence kind of hits. As it passes through, that apricot I was talking about on the nose and a little bit of pineapple hit like midway through the palate, but they're not as noticeable as the citrus. And then on the back of the palate, this is where it has a semi to full-on dry, closer to full-on dry finish with a firm, moderate bitterness, and it has that piney, earthy, resinous kind of lingering hop character. It's so damn drinkable to me because I get like that sweet, you know, a little bit of that sweet malt up front with the sweet citrus, juicy, slightly juicy kind of orange and grapefruit. On the back of the palate, though, it dries out and it has that moderate bitterness. So this isn't like balanced, and a lot of West Coast IPAs aren't like crazy balanced. They usually lean a little bit more bitter, and this does, but it's not overbearing. Like I want my hazies to kind of be like this. Maybe a little less bitter, but like this beer, they've done a really good job with it. It's super easy to drink too. Like if you're somebody who loves like old school American IPAs and West Coast IPAs, and you can get down with that bitterness, and you're in the Western New York area, grab yourself a can of that. I don't think you will be disappointed. Do I like this better than regular Hayburner? I think if this is what this would consistently taste like, let's say they, for some reason, decide to like make this a staple in their lineup or like a rotating offering. If this is the quality I could expect from this beer every single time, I think I'd like it better than Hayburner as a whole. The best batches of Hayburner I've ever had, though, are better than what I'm drinking right now. So it's you're comparing oranges to apples or apples to oranges because that's a American IPA / hazy IPA that has different characteristics. This is more West Coast style, more bitter, kind of going for the old school, but with maybe a little new school influence. So it's not fair to compare. So I'm not going to sit here and compare them. I'm done with that. I would just say this on its own can stand on its own, and it's a good beer. I'll take one more sip and I'll lock in the score. Yeah, it's just really good. I'm also getting now a little bit of like a floral tinge on the back of the palate. That's really nice. And I just got like a pop of like a mango, slight mango. But for the most part, this is kind of true to the style. But again, I would call this more of like a modern West Coast IPA than a straight up West Coast IPA. And I know some folks have problems with like calling a beer like a modern West Coast IPA, and I get it. But like what I kind of understand what brewers are going for with modern IPA or modern West Coast IPAs. If they're done right, though, they kind of still, again, have that soul of an old school West Coast IPA. And I think that's where you have to make sure you're nailing that. And some breweries don't. I think they did a great job with this, though. Whether you're calling West Coast-style IPA, modern West Coast IPA, whatever the case may be, they did a good job here. So West Coast Burner from Big Ditch. Absolutely zero issues giving this a high 4.25 and go 4.3 out of 5. This is delicious. This is tasty. Maybe brownie points and extra points because of the theme and the logo and the label of this beer. I think it's absolutely fantastic. They've done just a fantastic job. And this is definitely being saved and going behind me on the pretentious wall of bottles and cans at some point. Anyway, price point availability, at the brewery, these were $14.99 a 4-pack, and then at the stores, I think they're like $15.99. So you're talking about, anywhere between $3.75 to $4 a can all day, every day. That's quality through and through. No problems with the price point and the availability. This is where it comes to Big Dish. They actually, the day you see the day I'm posting when I'm reviewing right now, they just, I think it was either today or yesterday, they posted a beer finder on their website. If you go to they actually have right there on the label, bigditchbrewing.com. If you go to their website, you can find where you can get their stuff. Again, I think they're mostly New York State, and a lot of their stuff that you can order online. I think they deliver. You can pick it up at the brewery. But go to the website, go to the beer finder, see if you can find this. If you're in the northeastern part of the US, at some point they're probably going to get distro outside of the state. But Big Ditch, I always say this, Big Ditch to me, one of the most consistent breweries in Buffalo, if not the most consistent. I rarely have a bad beer from them, and this is another one where I think they've just did an outstanding job with this one. So kudos to Big Ditch on this one. Appreciate everybody stopping by for another beer review here on the Beer Patrol. If you've had this one before, post in the comment section. Did you like this better than the Hayburner? Did you enjoy Hayburner more? I like that they're doing more burner beers. They've also done Dayburner, which is a like a session IPA of their Hayburner. They've done their Space Donkey, which is a Galaxy Hayburner. So I like that they're taking like the base recipe and doing other things with it. So it's really cool to see. So anyway, to the next one. Cheers. Stop by next Wednesday for another installment of West New York Wednesday. Don't know what I'm reviewing, but it's hopefully going to be from the West New York area, hence the name. Anyway, cheers. Did I mention the 7.2? I don't know if I did. If I didn't, yeah, you can't taste it. We're going to do a double cheers.